Everyone, and welcome to the Attleboro mayoral debate in advance of the special town election coming up very shortly here in the city of Attleboro. Tonight's debate will feature the four candidates asking questions from three panelists. We have one timekeeper. I'll introduce everyone in a moment. I have been in this room a number of times, and I would just ask, especially the people in the back, this room reminds me of a fireplace where the air comes in, except this time it's not air. So if people are talking in the back of the room, it feeds to the front of the room. The counselors probably know what I'm talking about. So please, if you want to talk about something, if you have to answer off the phone, please step outside. Let's get going. The panelist for this evening's debate is Mike Kirby, Saturday weekend edition columnist in the Sun Chronicle. Crystal Brown Battle, a citizen here in the city of Attleboro, and Bill Gouveia, a columnist in the Monday edition of the Sun Chronicle. And our timekeeper, who is the one person the candidates really have to pay attention to this evening, is Bridget Gay. Our panelists and the order they are seated, the order they will speak all night long, was determined by a drawing in the back of the room earlier this evening. To your far left, Timothy Barone. Next to Timothy is Kathleen DeSimone. Next to Kathleen is Jay Delisio. And next to Jay is John Davis. You will probably forget this because any debate I have ever moderated here at City Hall, the candidates start out doing well and then they forget about it. I always think that the majority of the people that are in this room probably already know who they're voting for. The majority of the people watching this debate are on the other side of the camera that Austin Ricketts is working. So when you're answering questions, other than looking at the panelists who asked you the question, looking out to the audience when people are watching it on TV makes it look like you don't care about them. Better off talking. Not only that, when Bridget holds up the cues, you will see them better if you're looking out there. She will be showing you four cues when you have 1 minute remaining, when you have 30 seconds remaining, when you have 10 seconds remaining, and when you are to stop. I will not stop you immediately when she holds up stop. What I would suggest is when you get to 10 seconds, if you're in the middle of a sentence, finish that sentence. But if you're a second or two over the first or second time, I'll give you a little leeway. But if you constantly ignore that stop, I will interrupt you. So we will begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. As I mentioned, by the draw, Timothy Barone will be first.
Okay, well, thank you, citizens of Attleboro. I feel it's important. I had a lot of complaints the last year or two since being back from California. I've lived here all my life prior to that I feel that unless you're part of the solution or trying to get into office, you can't complain about city councilwomen's or anything about the city. I probably won't need 3 minutes. My key is just short, succinct, that we just want some common sense. Every single signature I got or received when I did my nomination papers, people just wanted some common logicalness in the city council, you know, and so that's what I'm work to bring. Look at all sides, make sure everyone gets considered, because most things can be win-win. Not always. I mean, I mentioned at the debates a while back that one of my favorite books is Profiles in Courage. And he said that JFK always talked about everything in office seemed about compromise. So my key is I love to have everyone here on in my administration, and like we wouldn't have to lose anybody if I was voted as mayor. And plus I talked to John before, he'd be phenomenal as a business incubator. Because I think really when you're starting off a business, there's little things you don't know that someone who's done it before is invaluable. So that's why I'd like to be your mayor.
Also, 3 minutes for an opening statement. Kathleen DeSimone.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. As you all know, Attleboro is a small city, about 46,500 people. And if past election trends are to continue, there's a very strong likelihood that less than 8,000 residents, if that, will vote in the upcoming special election. Of course, a special election in late February is far from ideal. But make no mistake, there's a lot at stake in this election. From our local economy to public safety, housing, water quality, school funding, and the environment, it is all important. Of course, we have our differences. America was founded on differences and compromise. But what cannot be compromised and never taken for granted is the value of your vote. I was reminded of this recently when I was speaking to a local veteran and his wife in South Attleboro. We were talking about the potential for a low voter turnout and the decline in general of civic engagement in this country. We talked about the fact that many kids don't know, and many adults seem to be forgetting, that our country, our democracy, and our way of life cannot exist separate and apart from your vote. In the course of human history, freedom has never been free or guaranteed. It's always been hard fought and always is worthy of protection. And every vote in every election is not just about the candidates. It's a vote for democracy, a vote for those who fought for this country, and a vote for our kids' future. Perhaps many of you, like me, are occasionally frustrated with the state of national politics, where personal and political agendas can trump common sense and impede meaningful action. Moving forward in Attleboro will present many challenges: unpredictable economic fluctuations, housing shortages, mental health challenges, increasing energy costs, deteriorating infrastructure, climate challenges, and business losses. Yet in these challenging times, I believe that cities like Attleboro will lead the way forward by making tough choices, taking calculated risks, and innovating around the problems that the state and federal government can't or won't solve. And most of us will work together to solve these problems to improve the quality of life for all of our residents. For all of these reasons and more, Attleboro's best future requires the next mayor to be collaborative, inclusive, strategic, and bold. That is who I am, and that is how I will lead. I know that most of you here, and probably the folks watching at home, are going to vote. So I hope that you ask your friends and neighbors to do the same, because it matters. And I certainly hope on February 28th that you think about voting for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third opening statement will be delivered by Jay DeLisio.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sun Chronicle, AACS, for hosting us tonight. Tim, Kathleen, John, thank you for making this happen. Also want to thank the winners from the last debate, which was the students and the teachers. That was really wonderful. I've been acting mayor since January 4th. My 5 terms on the city council and my time as the assistant registrar at the Registry of Motor Vehicles has prepared me for this job. Over my 12 years of involvement in Attleboro government, I've gained a lot of institutional knowledge that my opponents just don't have. I spent 8 years on the budget committee, and I was the chair for 4 of them. I understand how to craft and present a budget on time. We need a plan for replacing and upgrading our water and wastewater facilities, for repairing our roads and sidewalks, and we need to care for our aging city buildings without burdening the taxpayer. Attleboro needs to compete against other communities for grant opportunities to see these important projects come to life, to increase housing, to grow our commercial tax base, and to create jobs. I will work to market Attleboro to growing industries such as tech and biotech, to encourage them to relocate their business and their workforce to Attleboro. We're all facing rising inflation, increasing taxes, high gas and energy costs. Together, we'll look for real solutions to these real issues by putting Attleboro residents first. In closing, I'm committed to building a new senior center, to ensuring the Community Crisis Intervention Team has the resources needed to address all areas of mental health in our community, to support Attleboro Public Schools to engage, challenge, and inspire all students, to encourage workforce and commuter housing. This will increase our economic development efforts downtown, to ensure our public safety agencies have the resources they need to keep us safe and that they're properly staffed, provide efficient delivery of government services by ensuring our city workers know, and every department know, and that they feel appreciated, and they know the work they do every single day matters. And finally, to make sure that you're listened to and you feel that you have a true ownership stake in our city. Thank you.
Our final opening statement will be delivered by John Davis.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to thank the Sun Chronicle, AACS, and all of you for coming out tonight to this event. This is an integral part of democracy, people actually getting involved in evaluating the choices we have for who's going to be the next leader of Attleboro. I first got involved in local government approximately 30 years ago, when as a young businessman, I felt many things going on in city government were being done inefficiently and not in the benefit of most of the people I knew. And for the last 30 years, I've been in one way or another involved in city government. I started first as a member of our municipal planning board, and then I sat here for 8 years as a city councilman, 6 of those chairing the Human Services Committee. I chaired our city charter commission, and I was also a commissioner of the Regional Planning Authority. I believe I have about as extensive a diverse background in government as any person living in Attleboro today. I've also owned 3 small businesses here in the community and been a small businessman for approximately 37 years. My whole take on local government is that local government isn't about partisan politics. It's not about deciding who's going to be on the Supreme Court or what kind of social activism we believe in. It's about providing basic fundamental services that each and every one of us expects to have every day in an efficient, cost-effective manner. It's not about fighting about things we see in Washington. It's not about arguing with our neighbors because they believe something slightly different than us and they belong to a different political party. City elections are nonpartisan for a reason. You know, when I chaired the City Charter Commission, we were very, very concerned about that we keep city elections nonpartisan. Now, I'm a moderate, middle-of-the-road guy who in my lifetime has belonged to each of the political parties at one time or another. I believe exactly what we need is a moderate person who has a lifetime of experience bringing people together, whether it's been in government or in business or my involvement in the church or any other human services that I've been involved with. You know, I served as the president of the board of directors of Self-Help, one of the largest and most diverse nonprofits in all the state. I worked with political leaders to all of southeastern Massachusetts, and I saw how one individual can make a difference. I got involved in this election not because I was sure I could win, but because I was sure that if I got elected, I could make a difference. You know, I haven't held elected office in almost 15 years, and people say that my chances are slim to none. Well, I don't believe that. Every day I'm out there talking to hardworking taxpayers in our community who believe what we need is some rational manager who can run our city without getting caught up in all the political activity that we see in Washington that we all hate. I want to encourage all of you to please come out and vote on February 28th. Thank you.
The next portion of this debate will feature the questions from the panelists. The candidates will have 1 minute, 45 seconds, so plenty of time to answer the question. The first question will be asked by Mike Kirby, and Kathleen, you will be the first to answer, followed by Jay, John, and Timothy. Mike?
Good evening. Paul Heroux is certainly the most environmentally conscious mayor in the city's nearly 110-year history. Things like climate change is certainly not just a national issue, but a local issue as well. What role will you, as mayor of the city of Attleboro, try to do to reduce pollutants and eliminate fossil fuels from the city vehicles? And specifically, would you pursue a state initiative to ban boilers and force heat pumps in Attleboro's homes?
Thank you for the questions, Mike. You know, being environmentally conscious is not just a decision that former Mayor Paul Heroux made. It's a decision that every mayor and every leader in this country is going to have to make and is making. It starts from the top. Governor Healy just appointed a climate chief. It's important not only for the environment, but also its economics. It makes money sense these days to be environmentally friendly. It's exactly where we have to be. In terms of your question, we've bought several of the electric vehicles for the police department. As far as I know, those vehicles are reliable, efficient, and long-lasting. I see no reason not to continue that if fiscally prudent to do so. It makes sense to me. I'd like to install solar stations around the city, solar panels. I intend to continue pushing the environmental initiatives, again, not only because it's good for the environment, but it makes good financial sense at this point.
Jay, same question.
Thank you. Mike, thanks for the question. So we're a green community. Attleboro is a green community, and that offers us a little bit of financial well-being and incentives. I think what we need to do is look at where we can add electric vehicles to our city fleets already. Part of that is having the charging stations. The charging stations are going to pull from the grid, so it's going to almost work against us unless we can come up with another way to charge those charging stations. We're already working on solar canopies for several of our parking lots across the city. That's a wonderful place to start in order to be able to harness the power of the sun to charge to use those to charge the chargers, which ultimately charge the cars. Thus, we'll actually cut back on some of those fossil fuels. Some of the other things we need to continue to look at is solar energy fields. This is all how we can continue to power Attleboro through a green initiative, how we can continue to add more charging stations. And the other thing I'd like to do is see solar panels added on the roofs of every school and every municipal building as we build new. Thank you.
John?
I think we all agree that the climate and keeping our community as green as possible is something that we all believe in. I don't think anybody wants to turn back the clock. I think one of the things that we are missing, though, is that we could be on the cutting edge of actually developing businesses that are green businesses. You know, there's a lot of technology being developed today. We talk about electric vehicles. Attleboro could be on the cutting edge of some of these new developments where we not only can make our community greener and cleaner, but we also can create great jobs for the future. You know, once upon a time, Attleboro didn't know it was going to be the jewelry capital of the world. But there were a few innovative guys who stepped up and took a risk, and look where that went. You know, who knows? We could someday down the road be really the, you know, if not the state's leading, maybe even the nation's leading area for developing clean energy and renewable resources. But I don't think any of us disagree with the fact that, you know, we need to make some serious decisions in the near future, you know, to keep our community from becoming not green. Thank you.
Tim?
Sure. Well, I appreciate the question. And my background, actually, my undergrad was all biochemistry, and we actually studied Jamaica, all the habitats, and to find out what exactly is the ideal for a city. And one of my key things is that federally, I find that the policies is based upon fear, and that we have to stop, you know, climate change and save the world. And I think, like we were mentioning here, it's common sense. We want clean water, we want clean air. And the key thing about the solar panels, though, is that I learned when I was doing my coursework, is that upstream and downstream, it's not always the greatest for the environment. So we have to make sure we balance, you know, the present when we have the solar panels, but what happens at the end. Thank you.
Our next question will be asked by Crystal Brown Battle. The order to answer will be Jay Delicio, John Davis, Timothy Barone, and Kathleen DeSimone.
Good evening. Some residents in our community believe their voices aren't heard due to a lack of diversity in higher-level city positions. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in the city, and how would you mitigate those concerns?
Thank you, Crystal. Nice to see you. So I think diversity in general needs to be part of our DNA. It needs to be entrenched in everything we do personally and as a community. I think what we need to do is continue to open the doors of communication to find out and work with some of the local organizations when there are jobs available. Right now, I know it's common to use LinkedIn, MMA, the Mass Municipal, but let's take a look at some of the other areas where we can get the word out for what we're hiring. Let's do some job fairs. Let's do some skill building. We do this in the private sector. I did it at the registry. This gives people the opportunity to know what jobs are out there, gives them the opportunity to work, to build the skill that they need, and it helps the hiring entities be able to find out who's available outside the four walls. I think whenever we have the opportunity to bring in different ideas, different thoughts, different experiences, it's only going to help us. And what we need to do is really make sure that we're hearing and listening to what everyone has to say. And we take what we're hearing and we say, are we where we need to be? If not, where do we want to go? And what's our plan? And how do we carve out that path? We take what we learn from there and we make that as part of our master plan, and we make it part of our hiring practices going forward.
John Davis.
I think that's a really good response, Jay. But I would say what I'm going to do is exactly what I did all my life as a businessman. I was one of the first people here in Attleboro who employed a significant number of minorities. You know, when I first started in business in the mid-'80s, There are a number of Cambodian and Laotian members of our community who were looking for work, and I found jobs for them to do in my business. Later on, when we had an influx of people coming from Guatemala and other areas of Central America, I found tasks that they could do working for my business. I believe in diversity. I've been advocating for that all my life. I was in high school, again, in the early 80s, when we first started having a number of minorities come to our community. And, I think leaders have to lead by example. It's all about how you treat people. No matter what color or creed or background you come from, we have to treat everybody as being equal. But I do agree that, traditionally around here, it's been white people who pretty much have predominantly held all the leadership roles in our community. And I think little by little, that will change. As your mayor, I can assure you that I will make every effort I can to give anybody the opportunity to live up to their full potential. Thank you.
Timothy Barone, diversity here at City Hall.
Well, that's a bit of a hot topic. My key thing on that is I think we need to be a meritocracy. It's based upon ability. Now, if someone's not getting enough chances or opportunity, that should be taken directly to the mayor's office, and that we could create a commission to go over that. But one thing I'd read just earlier this morning is, I think, Idris Elba, he says, I'm not going to refer to myself as a black actor anymore. I'm just an actor. I think we need to be citizens, and we need diversity of thought, and focus on that. And like I said, if anyone's getting shortchanged, it should be taken directly to the mayor's office.
Kathleen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question, Crystal. So when I think of diversity, I think of diversity of all different kinds. Right? It's not just a question of skin color or ethnicity. It's a question of economic diversity, intellectual diversity, all levels and all ways. The more diverse we are, the richer we are. So I think in terms of getting more people involved in the city, and whether it's employment or on our various boards, commissions, and our city council, it's built a lot by, number one, restoring faith in government, making people want to be involved. Because there's a lot of people out there who just have lost faith, they don't want anything to do with it. So I think we have to restore faith in government, lead by example, but it's also greatly done by relationships. If people trust you, and I learned this when I was teaching ESOL at the Literacy Center, personal relationships are where it starts. When people have faith in you and they trust you, they're much more likely to relate to you. So I'd like to build upon the relationships that I have, restore faith in government. I think we all be the richer for it. So it's absolutely something. And it's an issue I had reached out to the Human Resource Director just before he left. I was asking for information about our diversity of recruitment. What are we doing as a city to expand our outreach to all different kinds of people? So it's definitely something that's extremely important to me, and we'll be better for it.
Our next question will be asked by Bill Gouveia. The order will be John, Timothy, Kathleen, and Jay.
Good evening, everybody. Because I love to make people happy, I'm going to let you pretend for a second. And each one of you can pretend that you won the election and you've now been mayor of Attleboro, the elected mayor of Attleboro, for a month. What did you do this past month? What did you instruct your staff to work on immediately? What were your priorities this month, other than rearranging the furniture? And what signal does it send to your constituents and other officials about the direction that you plan on taking the city?
Well, that's an excellent question, Bill. Thank you. I've spoken a lot about some of the things in the community that I really don't think are being done optimally. One of the first things I want to address is our parking enforcement methods. The way in which we go about giving people a ticket 30 seconds after they exceed the 2 hours, or because they're half an inch too far away from the curb. These things are the things that directly affect everyday people and in some ways deter them from wanting to venture into our downtown. The most important thing, though, I think that I provide is a willingness to listen to people. Everyone talks about having an open door policy, but anyone who knows me knows that they can show up at my house and talk to me any day. Half the community has my phone number, and people call me every day to ask me questions. I think, again, you lead by example, and we talk about transparency in government, but transparency isn't about telling people what decision you've made. It's about listening to people and let people be involved in those changes themselves. Probably the biggest things that would change in the first month are things that are going to be handed down to me from Mr. Delisio that some of us, all of us, may not know anything about today. Running a community is a lot more complex than the average person thinks. There are a lot of everyday things that go on in the mayor's office that 99.9% of the population never sees. But I guarantee you, if I become mayor, that a month from now, we'll be a much more open and inclusive city government than what we have had in the recent past.
Timothy?
Well, I've done this with friends, we call it dream building, where we've already decided we've already won. And one of the key things is a group I work with called Chronicle Management out in LA, and they have people out here, is there's two things you need to do. Is you need to go through the city to make sure there's anything what's called a camouflage hole, where you think something's being handled and it's not. And you wonder why things are falling on its face. You find all those, you handle that. And the second thing is you take every single member of that works for you, and you align their job, which they might have already been doing, with exactly what they want to get done. Because I've gotten a lot of training down in Florida. There's a guy named Grant Cardone. He does all these massive workshops. It's every single person, their job aligns with what they produce. And when they do that, they're excited to come to work, and just everything. The culture of the city hall is 10 times better. So that's what I do.
Kathleen?
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. So after the first month, I'm going around and building relationships. I happen to work well with the department heads. So there's a lot to think about. I appreciate this question because I'm sitting here thinking, is it water? Is it open space? But I think I would start with reaching out first to our economic development director and our TDI ambassador for mass development, and seeking out opportunities to continue to expand our businesses downtown in particular. There are some programs that I recently learned about that I'm particularly interested in, that we could get more assistance in the state on those fronts. Equally important to me is housing, so I'm going to reach over to Gary and city planning and figure out what we need to do, get the housing needs assessments going, because this is something I want to hit the ground running. It's a particularly important issue and something we're actually already behind on. So to answer your question, my two most important things would be continuing economic development downtown and aggressively pursuing the housing diversity and options that we need in the city to grow.
And Jay?
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Bill. So in the first month going forward, what we would do is, first and foremost, we need to prepare for the budget. We have an annual budget that's coming down, and we don't have a budget director as of Thursday. We need to make sure that we're getting this budget ready to come down so we can have a balanced budget, we can have a budget that comes down on time. We need to hire the replacement for the budget director. We also need to hire a replacement for the Council on Aging director, and we also need to hire the personnel director. These are all three critical positions that we currently do not have. The other thing we need to do is we need to continue to rebuild some of the partnerships with our state and regional partners that we might not have had the relationships with over the last several years for whatever the reason. I know in my time already, I've spent time with GATRA. I've met with Mary Ellen DeFrayis 3 times, talking about how, in her words, we can spend GATRA's money downtown on some of these projects relating to transportation. I've spent time with Paul Walker from SERPED, talking about some of the regional initiatives that we have. I would look to continue to build those relationships, but first and foremost, we need to get going on that budget. We need to get going on these critical positions that are currently vacant.
Thank you. We are now into our second round of questions. For those of you just joining us on television, our debate this evening is sponsored by both the Sun Chronicle and AACS. The first question in round 2 will be asked by Mike Kirby. The order will be Timothy, Kathleen, Jay, and John. Mike?
There's been much discussion in this campaign about the future of one closed golf course, Locust Valley. But Attleboro already owns a closed golf course, the former Highland Country Club. What do you see as the future of that nearly 100 acres of land, now known as Highland Park?
I mean, for me, I've run there cross country and played there, and our family's was a member prior to that. It definitely, I think it's key as a park, and then also used as the high school communities. But I would like to see at the clubhouse, or maybe if we rebuild the clubhouse, somewhat of a community center, like it was before, at least when we went there with Highland Country Club. I think we were all in agreement that we wanted to make sure that we save the green spaces in Attleboro. And we can also, questions like these, I think, would be great towards the new Attleboro High School students. A lot of them run programs to get them involved and crowdsource what they think they could be used for. Right now, I know it's been used for sporting events and for, like I said, the clubhouse needs to be used.
Kathleen?
Yes, thank you, Mike. So I'm a huge supporter of open space. That's why I'm going to push hard for the city to acquire Locust Valley as well, if it's fiscally possible to do so. In terms of Highland, there's a couple of issues we need to resolve, of course. Firsthand is the Article 97 protection, whether it is by default or whether we should make it by law a Article 97 protected parkland. Assuming it is by operation of law either way, if we want to use it, the uses will be restricted by the restrictions imposed upon parkland. But I'm inclined, and it's number one on the list at the moment for the future potentially Council on Aging. If that is possible, if we can get 2/3 of the state to agree with us that we can use that land and we can set aside whatever acreage we use at another spot, because you have to have no net loss. I am certainly open to put the senior center there. I think it's a beautiful location. I think it's a great location. It will be a good use of existing property. We don't have to buy more. We start with the clubhouse, get an engineer to evaluate it, determine if we can work with it, and move forward. And frankly, I want to see a new senior center happen, and I want to see it happen within the next 5 years.
Jay, Highland Park.
So I voted affirmative to purchase Highland Park several years back. Also, I voted to purchase the land off Wilmot Street and Handy Street. Open space is extremely important. As far as Highland is concerned, we do need to have a plan. I'm meeting tomorrow with the city solicitor to talk about finding out if Highland falls under Article 97 of the Massachusetts State Constitution, which would designate that as parkland. I think we're all going to be in agreement that Highland is the perfect place for the senior center. It has the trails, it has the space for the outdoor activity. I've talked to GATRA, who would be willing to entertain the discussion about extending the GATRA service there. We have the parking. There are things we can do with Highland, and right now, we're not taking advantage of nearly enough that we're doing there. Timothy mentioned cross-country. I don't know if most people know that the Big East tournament was held in our backyard at Highland Park last year. It is the home course for Providence College, for Bishop Fien, and of course Attleboro. So I think we need to first find out and ensure that it is protected by Article 97 of the state constitution. My understanding and my thought is that it is, but we'll find out more tomorrow when I meet with the solicitor.
John, final shot.
It's funny Jay mentions about cross-country. I was there for the Big East Championships. As most of you know, that I've been a competitive runner virtually all my life. But we acquired that property for the purpose of creating open space and limiting development there. I believe that that should be created as parkland, and that the only parcel of that land we should use in any way for development is where the clubhouse exists today for the creation of a senior center. I think the reality is we're probably all in agreement that more than likely that location is going to be where our future senior center is going to be created. There are very few other suitable parcels of property that the city already owns for building a senior center. Now it's a matter of working out the details and the funding. But the funding for that is something that we really need to pursue the state and federal government for. There are plenty of senior centers around that have gotten money from the federal government. We simply need to, as Jay mentioned earlier, develop a better relationship with our congressional staff and with other elected officials. I mean, there's a lot of potential out there if you just know the right people to talk to. But to get to the gist of the answer is I believe it should stay as open space. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about building, a hat shell or some sort of performance center, and I just don't hear positive feedback about that from the community. I really don't. I think the majority of the people would much rather see that just as green open space. Thank you.
Our next question will be asked by Crystal Brown Battle. The order to answer, Kathleen, Jay, John, and Timothy.
Since all of you are interested in becoming Attleboro's next mayor, everyone will expect you to think about the challenges that you will face and even find some workable solutions. Why are you interested in this position, and how will you stay motivated in this role based on inflation, housing crisis, transportation challenges, et cetera?
Thanks, Crystal. I'm interested in this position because it's an evolution of what I've been doing already for many years in the city, which is trying to move it forward. I think the time is right. There are challenges ahead, but I think I have the education, the experience, the personality, and the leadership skills to work with all parties involved. I think I have vision. I think I'm bold because this is no time for indecision. I make clear decisions. I'm collaborative and inclusive, and I happen to think I'm the right person at the right moment to move the city forward. All of the issues that are on the agenda are already things I'm working on. Housing, check, working on it. Mental health is something I've been talking about for a long, long time before election. I've been working on building businesses downtown, protecting residents, protecting our seniors. I'm already doing it. So what I'm going to do here is elevate my game and get more people involved and even do more and go further. So I think I'm the perfect person for right now.
Jay?
So, I've spent the last 12 years involved in Attleboro government. I first was elected to the council in 2011. After that, I lost my initial re-election bid, but I stayed involved with the ARA, the police commission, came back, and I've been on the councils until taking over as acting mayor. I have the experience, I have the relationships, I have the ability to forge new relationships. Why I think I'm qualified is I understand the finances of the city. It's something that I've spent a great deal of time learning, and it's very complex. I've built relationships with people inside and outside City Hall, from our own finance team, or the treasurer, the auditor, as well as the business director at the schools. In terms of how do you stay motivated, when you work with the people that we work with inside of City Hall, inside of every building, our firefighters, our cops, wastewater, DPW, it's easy to stay motivated because I've spent time as acting mayor getting to know the people who make this city run. I go department to department. I check in, I'm learning people's names, which sounds like you learn people's names. That's a big thing to those people, that you're learning their names. When you walk in and you say, hey Liz, hey Kim, it goes a long way. I think what we need to do is continue to look at how we move this city forward. We need to continue to control spending and limit the burden to the taxpayer. And the way we do that is when you have the experience to understand what to look for.
John, why do you want to be mayor?
Well, as I said earlier, I've been involved in local government. I first started my involvement in local government about 30 years ago. And I'm the only one up here who's actually run for mayor before. This is an endeavor I've been pursuing for 3 decades now. In everything I've been involved with in my lifetime, I've always managed to end up usually being the leader or an integral part in the leadership team. I think my experience, in my youth, I have a lot of political friends. My former mayors, Kay Shang and Jerry Keene were friends of mine as I was growing up. There are people who mentored me. As I got older and got more involved in the city, Judy Robbins was an integral person in educating me about city government. When I first got involved here at City Hall, I used to come here almost every day to talk to people about how City Hall ran. Very few people have taken the time out of work that I've taken over the last 2 or 3 decades to actually learn about municipal government. I've been involved not only here at City Hall, but I've also been involved in politics in other neighboring communities. Not as much in the last 5 or 10 years, but there was a time when, when I was involved with politics, whether it was in Pawtucket or Taunton, where I had other friends who were elected officials. I've got a diverse background in both business, management, and local government. I think I'm well suited for this job, and I hope that I'll get the opportunity to be able to show people the skills that I've developed over the course of my lifetime.
Our next question will be asked by Bill Gouveia. The order will be
I
Jay.
didn't speak.
I'm sorry, Timothy. Go ahead.
My gems were not heard.
Why do you want to be mayor?
Exactly. The reason I want to be mayor is, I think one key word that every city or empire that fell is disenfranchisement or apathy. We talked about earlier the amount of people that might vote in this election is kind of, well, I'll just say sad. We want people to be excited to be in Attleboro. And it's like what I talked about before is you start with the city workers. If all their dreams match up with their job and what they produce, then we can do that and move that on to all of our citizens. What do they want to achieve in their life? What do they want to do? And you get that aligned and people get excited, you have passion. And instead of people just ignoring politics as being annoying, they should be excited about that, having leaders that want to lead them.
Thank you. I feel like I've said this before, but the next question will be asked by Bill Gouveia. The order to answer, Jay, John, Timothy, and Kathleen D. Simone.
Thank you. On his way to his new job, the former mayor suggested some changes to city government and proposed they be put forth in the form of a non-binding referendum. Change is hard, and it's not always popular. As mayor, how would you approach the touchy subject of making changes perhaps to the format and layout of city government What, if any, changes do you believe are needed? And if done at all, is it best doing it piecemeal, or perhaps look at the whole problem through the more complicated process of a charter review?
I think that's, the answer is we need to look at the comprehensive plan for a charter review commission. I think when you have the opportunity to bring the public and the elected officials and city officials together to take a look at how the government is run, it truly gives people a voice in the government. It gives people the opportunity to get involved, have that ownership stake in the government. In terms of what would we change in the government, I think there's a lot of things that we can take a look at. Most notably, let's take a look at our staff. Let's take a look at the classifications. Are we paying our employees the right amount of money? The classification study is actually already in effect. That should be coming down shortly if it hasn't already. I know the personnel department's finalizing that. When we look at what are the needs we have? What are the needs that our residents have? Are we making government easily accessible to our residents? That's what we need to look at when we're looking at the way the government's set up. The charter over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of the home rule charter petitions. I think we need to take a comprehensive look at the charter, see where we are, match it up with the comprehensive plan, see if it makes sense to where we're going. We're going to hear a lot tonight about plans and visions. We need to make sure that our form of government is able and ready to handle those changes and those visions.
John?
Yeah, Bill, I certainly believe we are due to have another charter review committee like the one that I chaired literally 25 years ago now. Time goes really fast. You know, the charter is a much more complex and lengthy document than most people realize, and it really depicts the structure of our city government that everything else builds off of. I think my experience, having been involved with that and seeing how serious some of these decisions can be, gets back to the point about having diverse people with diverse backgrounds and views making these decisions. I think we need to get a group of people together with a whole different array of backgrounds and experiences to look at maybe a structure of our city government isn't ideal in this day and age. We, at the time when I was involved 25 years ago, thought that just about everything in there seemed to still work the way it had been originally created. But times change and circumstances change, and maybe we need to reevaluate that. I don't believe in government by referendum. You know, I think we elect our city, state, federal officials to make these tough decisions for us. I think trying to circumvent that by, referendums of one kind or another really, in my belief, isn't a good form of government. I think, if I'm the mayor, we're going to have a charter review. I'm going to create a committee. That's one of the things, one of the powers that the mayor has is to create committees that don't involve the city council. And I would plan to exercise that power.
Timothy?
Well, I think when you're talking about fixing City Hall or optimizing it, one of the key things that we want to get it out of the ether is the keyword is stats. Is every single person needs to have a stat, and every company I've worked with that's gone gangbusters is they satisfy everything. That way that you can tell, should I have a raise, should I not, am I producing more, am I producing less? And that gets every worker out of confusion and gets them knowing exactly what they need to do every day. And so that's why, like I mentioned, there's a company I work with, and I've already contacted them. I would use 10% of my salary to pay for their consulting to find if there's any, like I said, camouflage holes or place being energy being wasted. But when we succeed and our statistics are high, I get that 10% back, maybe with a bonus.
Kathleen?
Yeah, Bill, thank you for the question. I love it. I'm going full charter review commission as required, as done by law with you elect people to the commission. I am particularly concerned, the school committee issue is an interesting one. I flip-flop back and forth, but at the end of the day, it's the residents' vote and decision that matters. I am particularly concerned about the positions of treasurer and collector, and it's been very much on my mind to make those appointed, not elected, because at this point in time, I could run for treasurer. That might not be the best idea. So, and I'm sure there's other folks in the room who would feel the same way. So it's been a long time coming. I'm not in favor of a charter committee. I think we should do it the right way, the full way, and put all our cards on the table. It's 2023. We can innovate, we can change, we can update, and it is a way to include diversity and get more people involved in government. So to address the school committee issue, the treasurer, the collector, perhaps even the form of the council. There's many questions that I think if we have an interested and engaged body of citizens, we could make some really effective dynamic changes, and it's about time.
We now begin the final round of questions from our panelists. Mike Kirby will ask the next question. The order to answer will be John, Timothy, Kathleen, and Jay.
John, the last three mayors have been very popular. Judy Robbins, then Kevin Dumas, Paul Heroux, all elected by a wide margin in some of their elections. Why do you think that is? Who do you most admire among those, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. I got to be honest, among the three of them, the one that I most admire is Judy Robbins. And, you know, Judy had a long tenure as mayor. And over the course of 12 years, you go through the good times, you go through the bad times, and I think Judy had an even keel to her. You know, I mean, people say she was a very emotional individual, but she realized that, you know, in the good times, you can get things done, but in the bad times, you still need to be planning for the future. For when the next cycle of good times comes around, you'll be prepared to actually make some of these things happen. Now, we may be heading into what isn't an ideal economic time in the next couple of years, but that doesn't mean that we should stop planning for a senior center, for police and fire headquarters, for some of the other projects that we might not be able to do for 8, 10, 12 years. But that's what I saw in Judy Robbins, and what I think she tried to instill in me is that you have to always be moving forward and planning for the future, even during the bad times. But I would say each of the three previous mayors have all done a good job in their own way. It's just that I think Judy was the one who kept the most even keel, and I think that's important in a leadership role, is to keep moving forward and keep a positive spirit going, even when it's not the best of times.
Timothy?
Sure. Well, I think on our minds probably is Mayor Heroux. He's the one I've dealt with directly the most in the last year or two. But one thing I appreciate, we didn't always agree on everything, is that he would stop, and I had talked with former councilman Julie Hall, that she didn't agree with him on everything, is that he would stop and he would speak with me. Like, I came in and I complained about something, and he stopped in the hall and he spoke with me. And I think that's key of involvement with our city, is people need to feel that they've been heard and that they've been acknowledged, because people keep talking over and over and over again, keep complaining, about potholes, about trash cans, until they're actually heard, and then something's done. And then they can finally take, a sigh of relief when they've been heard, and we can move on to the next thing. And as one key thing about the inflation and the economy and the federal, I think the key thing is to, and this is one thing I learned from all my mentors, is you got to create our own economy in Attleboro, so that if people want to have a downturn, that's fine, we just won't participate.
Kathleen, favorite mayor?
Wow, this is a really good question. And so just to work backwards from the most recent, Paul Heroux, his contact with the voters and being in touch with the community is amazing, because he wasn't only reaching people to get their votes, he was collecting data, and that data served him very well in his administration. So his connection to the voters is par none. Mayor Dumas said another great example. That guy worked crazy hard in all levels, in all capacities, that he would be out there doing things that he would do whatever he asked his employees to do. He set a great example. However, although I did not work with her, I think I'm going to choose Mayor Robbins, because everything I've heard about her is that she was tough and fair, and that is exactly what I intend to be. I don't believe in old school politics. I don't believe in things happening behind closed doors. I don't believe in favors. I don't believe in patronage. I believe in transparency, openness, and you can be tough all day long as you're fair to all parties involved. So for that reason, I picked Judy.
And Jay?
So I've had the opportunity to work with all three. I had the opportunity to work with Judy when she was the chair of the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority, and I spent 2 years learning from Judy Robbins. Tough but fair. It's a good depiction of Judy, but she cared. She cared so much about the people of Attleboro, what it was that she was there for. Kevin taught me an awful lot about process, how to understand the finances of the city, why relationships are so important. And he also taught me that, you've got to show up every single day and do the job well. You have to be the first one at City Hall and the last one to leave. Kevin taught me that when you have these partnerships and you get yourself into a jam, you can reach out to some of the partners rather. And sometimes those partners were Judy Robbins herself. The fact that Judy Robbins was able to bring Kevin in, they sat down for weeks leading up to Kevin's inauguration so the city would be in good hands, speaks volumes about both of them. Judy's class, Kevin's willingness to learn. I think those are the two things that I'm taking away most.
The next question will be asked by Crystal Brown Battle. The order will be Timothy, Kathleen, Jay, and John.
What's more important for our city right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
Well, thank you, Crystal. I think at this time is we have to use our resources that we already have, rather than breaking ground at other places. I think that's the best use of our time and our resources, is to evaluate. And that's one thing I've done when I've worked in other jobs, is you actually quantify everything. And we can take the city and see what's been used and not being used, and we can assign it a condition. And at that point, then we can think about new construction. But prior to that, we have to use what we have already.
Kathleen?
Interesting question. I'm going to go with option A. I'm going to say homes and commercial space because a city has to grow. But when I say homes, I'm not talking about new subdivisions all over the city. I'm very much in favor of continuing to add people downtown. I think that is the way to go. I'm a fan of apartments. I think they're in condos. They're an efficient way to live. They don't involve miles of water mains. They're resource efficient, and I think they're much more beneficial in terms of the use of city services. I think we have to not necessarily add commercial space, but certainly continue to fill in some of the spaces that are available. But we have to grow. At the end of the day, we have to grow. We cannot stagnate. You cannot suffocate a city. You need people. You need business. So I would continue to bring people in and use the existing and add commercial space where possible. So yeah, thank you, Crystal.
Jay?
So this morning I had the opportunity to spend an hour with the chair of the Municipal Building Commission and our city planner talking about housing, talking about what the plans are. There's a lot of plans coming down the line. We want to be able to take advantage of the fact that we're an MBTA community as of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 3A, which essentially says, and we signed up for this as enacted this just recently, several months ago, and it's saying, let's take advantage of the fact that we're an MBTA community where we have rails. We have an opportunity to be building some dense multifamily homes downtown. We build homes downtown, the businesses are going to follow. We're going to take advantage of the fact that we're a commuter city, and that's the reality of it when you have 2 train stations. I think when you have and you create housing downtown, it's going to really help economic development across the city. The other thing is I want to work with the ARA. I want to continue the great job that they've been doing on the Riverfront Drive property that's right across from Judy Robbins Park, abutting the train station. We have an opportunity to build 600, 700, 800 units of new housing over the next 5 years, with a goal of getting to 2,865 in order to fulfill what we're looking to fulfill by being an MBTA community.
John?
I think it's a better plan to try to redevelop some of the already developed areas in our community. As we talked about, trying to preserve open space, we have a diminishing amount of pristine open space out there. The state has created all sorts of incentives and plans for, as Jay pointed out, developing close to transportation and close to your downtown. I think over the next 5 to 10 years, most of the growth in our community is going to be within walking distance of our downtown. And the reason I think that is because not only does the community, city government, but also developers have incentives from both the state and federal government to pursue those activities. Whereas someone developing a piece of farmland 5 miles away from the center of town isn't going to have that same incentive. But the reality is the government doesn't dictate all of these activities. The private sector is going to play a huge role in what gets developed and what doesn't. But what's important is that, we have boards, the planning board, we have a zoning board, we have a conservation commission. What's important is that all of these boards play a role in the jurisdiction they have in these developments. And I think in order to fully represent the wants and needs of our community, we have to make sure that these boards have a diverse group of people on them, that we don't have the same people on the planning board for 30 years. You know, that we have a new influx of people with a different perspective to be involved in that whole process.
Our final question of the meeting will be asked by Bill Gouveia, the order to answer. Kathleen, Jay, John, and Timothy.
Okay, Kenneth, unlike being a private citizen or one of 9 or 11 counselors, being mayor exposes you to a unique and intense public focus. As current or future public officials, your lives have been the topic of discussion for a while now, whether you like it or not. Please take this opportunity to share with us something that we may not know about you personally, but probably should before you take office. Tell us something we know about your political experience. Tell us a bit about your life experience.
Kathleen?
Oh, I could tell you a lot. I am the child of a single-parent family. I was raised by my mother. I am very much a person of action. I think it's proven in all the things that I've done. But I've had an interesting life story, Bill. I'll sum it up by saying I've literally gone from the back of a garbage truck to representing the United States in immigration court. I have done everything all in between. But no matter what I do, it's how I do what I do that I think ultimately matters. I am transparent, honest, open, and a person of integrity. I'm a person of action. I don't just talk for the sake of talking. But I think that's something that most people know about me if they know me at all. In terms of what people may not know about me, I don't know. There's not a whole lot. I'm an open book. I need to put my head on the pillow at night. That's what my mother always said, and I can do that because I have no secrets. There's nothing in my closet. I am completely open in what you see before you know. I will work hard. I'm committed to the residents of Attleboro. I have the education, the experience, the leadership and management skills to run this city and take this city forward. I am the right person for right now for all the reasons that I stated before, and I look forward to serving as mayor.
Jay?
So, like Kathleen, I was raised by a single mother. I have 3 brothers who, the 5 of us, we're a family. Everything we do is a family. From that, I learned the value of hard work. My mother taught me how to do laundry when I was on crutches. She said, if you can do it when you're on crutches, you can do it when you're walking just fine. But it taught me about the value of hard work and overcoming adversity, overcoming challenges. My brothers and I didn't have a lot growing up. Anything we had, we worked for. And when Amy and I met at Westfield State College in 1998, she had a similar mindset that if it's worth having, it's worth working for. And the 2 of us, we worked our tails off. We paid for our own college. We paid for our own down payments. We paid for our own wedding. It taught us the value of a dollar. Since being in Attleboro, we've had our son Ryan, 16 years old, junior at Attleboro High School. Family, friends, that's what it's about. When we're not out here and putting ourselves, as Bill said, our lives on display, it's about family, it's about friends. It's about capturing those moments that you know if you blink, you're gonna miss. One thing you might not know about me, I know I talk about it on the radio, is I love food. I have 3 grills on my back patio. I have a pellet smoker, I have a Weber charcoal grill, and I have my Blackstone. It's not uncommon to find me on Sunday cooking Sunday dinner, and it's sauce, not gravy, but for my friends and family.
John Davis, what don't we know about you?
Well, over the last 30 years, just about everything that can be said about me has been said about me. I've been a public figure for most of my adult life. But one of the things that I really don't like to talk about, but it's something that, should be spoken about, is about 3 years ago, I suffered an accident where I came this close to being killed. And it's a miracle today that I still have a left arm. And I only bring that up because people deserve to know who they're electing and something about that guy. And there's been a lot of talk recently about how I said that I would serve the rest of this term without being paid. And people have criticized me about that, but it's my way of paying back to the community. Because the reality is my wife's a special needs teacher. And if we didn't have the city's health insurance, I wouldn't have a left arm today. The taxpayers of this community have already contributed to the fact that I'm here and able to do this again. Because I'm going to tell you, when you're sitting at home waiting to have surgery and you're not sure you're going to be here, you don't think to yourself, boy, I wish I made more money in life. You think about, how can I pay back? How can I make a difference in the future? People deserve to know that I know what it is to be down and out and not sure about your future. I hope that I can pay back the people of this community by using the skills that I've spent my whole adult life living. Very few people have spent as many hours in this building as I have over the last 30 years. And, for better or worse, my arm may not do much, but it's still there. And even without a left arm, I still believe I have the mental abilities and the dedication to make a difference in this community. In one way or another, whether I win this election or not, I'm going to make a difference in this community. Thank you.
And Timothy.
Well, when I think of things that I probably haven't talked about is just two topics. Actually, January 7th, 2007, I moved into an apartment, and from that point I had massive headaches for the last 15 years. I went to 35 doctors to get it handled, and I never stopped until I got handled. So I'm a bit tenacious, and I don't quit. You only fail, or Les Brown, he says, it ain't over until I win. And that's what I consider about the mayor's race as well. As a second point, I'm also, besides being an athlete, as a runner, and also a biochemist, so a logical thinker, I'm also an opera singer. So I've sung with BU Opera Institute on many occasions, especially right before COVID. So I think that's one thing no one's on the dais here has spoken about, is being an artist. And I think every single person needs to be an artist in life, even if it's just their own life. And I want to bring that to the mayor's office, that I want to use all the talents of this dais, their logicalness and knowing of every single code that we need to do to make the city the best it can, but also to have the artistic vision to have the city really turn out, like I said, it's an aesthetics. When you live life really well, your life is an aesthetic.
Thank you to our three panelists, Mike Kirby, Crystal Brown Battle, and Bill Gouveia. It's time for closing statements. Just like the opening statements, the candidates will have 3 minutes to speak to you directly, the voters. The order will be Jay, John, Timothy, and Kathleen. Jay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Peter. So thank you to everyone at home who's watching, and thank you to everyone for being here tonight and being part of the process. Tonight I shared with you all my plan and my vision for Attleboro, and I hope you share that vision. Since becoming acting mayor, I've created the Community Crisis Intervention Team, sent a request to the council to increase the senior tax abatement amount, started conversations with the Council on Aging and the supplemental insurance provider to help seniors with in-home medical care, requested the use of COVID relief funds to pay for a water project which protects the ratepayer. Based on feedback from the community, I'm having ongoing conversations with our solid waste administrator, DEP, and waste management to investigate being able to offer larger trash barrels to our residents. I'm working with the city auditor, the treasurer, the business manager of the school department, and the outgoing business director to start the budget process for fiscal '24 and the appropriate discussions. My vision is an Attleboro where inclusion, collaboration, and relationships are the foundation of our future. The Delisio administration will implement common sense solutions to current and future challenges facing our city. I hope you share my vision for Attleboro. The Office of Mayor leads the executive branch of our government, and I'm the only candidate in this race with the executive and municipal experience that is needed to lead this city and achieve that vision. Attleboro is at our best when we come together, and together we're doing great things. I ask for your vote humbly on February 28th to be the next mayor of Attleboro. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, and best of luck. John, 3 minutes.
Again, I'd like to thank the Sun Chronicle and AACS and all of you who tuned in tonight to participate in this, what I think was an excellent debate. I've been involved in a lot of debates in my lifetime, and I think this was a really wonderful event this evening. As I said before, I first got involved in local government 30 years ago because I felt that local government wasn't doing as good a job as it could. And I still feel that way today. I believe that we can provide basic fundamental services to people, be it roads, be it trash, be it clean drinking water, in a better manner and in a more cost-effective manner than we're presently doing. I think I have the right skills, the right experience, and the right motivation to push forward and make these things happen. I mean, we all agree on 90% of the stuff we've talked about tonight. But the question is, who really has the drive to keep pushing when things aren't going well? During good times, it's easy to make things happen. But when times are tough, as I've experienced in business, I know what it's like on Friday morning to be worried about how you're going to meet the payroll at noontime. There are really tough decisions you have to make in life, and I've made plenty of them. I think in the future, the key to success in our community is going to be learning to work in a collaborative effort, to including people of completely diverse backgrounds. And I think eliminating political partisanship is the key to this. Again, I've stressed this before, is that I'm a middle-of-the-road, moderate guy who can work with people no matter what their national political views are. And unless our community builds upon that, we're not going to be able to get simple, fundamental things done. Everyone I know agrees that we should have better roads. Well, why don't we? Right? Ask yourself, why don't we? I believe it's because we spend too much time bickering and doing things that separate us rather than working collaboratively to make things happen. I'm not going to make all sorts of promises in this campaign about things that I'm going to do, that half of which would never actually happen, and almost all of which couldn't happen unless you work collaboratively with the city council. The city council is the only one who can actually spend any money. A mayor can't spend a penny. Only the city council can spend money. And people always forget about that. We also, as candidates, always talk about all the things we want to add on to and do. But where is the revenue for that going to come from? The reality is, unless we have someone who understands business, who can actually recruit people to come to this community and build substantial businesses, we're not going to have the revenue to do 3/4 of the stuff that we've talked about this evening. We've been talking about building new business in this community since long before I got involved. And I think it's time now that we have someone who's not afraid to risk everything they have in order to try to make that happen. And I hope that enough of you will believe in me as I believe in you to come out on February 28th and vote for John Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and best of luck. Timothy?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Sun Chronicle. One thing I didn't mention, I used to be a paper boy for the Sun Chronicle, so I think the only one on the dais that could say that, and I didn't get fired, as far as I know. And also the panelists in the city of Attleboro. I think we have a unique opportunity at this time to take Attleboro to the next level. Like, everyone's doing okay, but I think okay should not be acceptable. We should be doing better than that. And one thing John mentioned about the potholes is there is an exact reason why those haven't been handled. If smaller problems aren't being handled, you need bigger, better problems, and then the small stuff gets handled. I mean, it's not actually small. And I think as the last thing, what I mentioned in my other answers is every person in Attleboro should want to be invested in and give their talents to the city. And like I said, it shouldn't be 8% or 3% show up to vote. It should be all of us that should be there having our voice heard. And if there's a reason why that needs to be solved, and I know as mayor that I could do that. And I hope that the city of Attleboro will vote February 28th for Timothy Baroni.
Thank you, Timothy, and good luck. Kathleen, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks to the Sun Chronicle and AACS and to the panelists for your great questions. Thanks to everyone here tonight, excuse me, and those people watching at home. This is a special time in Attleboro. Projects long in the making are coming together and the community is growing and becoming more diverse. We have so much to be proud of. A magnificent library, Lee's Pond, an amazing new high school, Capron Park Zoo, new buildings rising right on the corner on Union Street, and old mills being revitalized. We have new downtown restaurants and businesses occupying formerly empty storefronts. We have miles of hiking trails and beautiful parks and playgrounds. Yes, we have our differences and our challenges, but the conversations I've had all over the city is that residents like the way things are going and they want to continue moving forward. I've been working to move the city forward for a long time. In 2010, I chaired the City Census Committee. I was the vice president on the library board. I have taught civics and ESOL classes at the old high school and at the Literacy Center. I'm a member of the Principals Advisory Committee at the high school. I've served on the Attleboro Moving Wall Steering Committee. I'm a member of Sturdy Hospital Foundation. I'm a founding member of Neighbors in Dialogue. And I'm a member of various community groups and more. These experiences have given me a broad and deep understanding of our city and community and the challenges and opportunities we face. With my professional experience, education, community connections, and understanding of government operations, I will work together with city department heads, community groups and leaders, business owners and residents to effectively, efficiently, inclusively, and boldly continue to move Attleboro forward. Together, we will give our senior citizens a new senior center that reflects their contributions to the community. We will ensure that our veterans are properly honored and celebrate and create a new memorial for the veterans of the War on Terror. We will continue to provide a quality education for all of our students and provide them the resources they need to learn. And we will continue to support the great work of our police and fire department to keep our neighborhoods and schools safe. Together, we will build more affordable and diverse housing for our current and new residents, and we will welcome and support new businesses so we can shop local and have more good jobs for residents close to home. We will normalize conversations about mental health and provide resources for those who need help. We will continue to embrace inclusion and diversity of all kinds. Together, we will protect our environment, keep our drinking water clean, and keep our parks and playgrounds beautiful for us, our kids, and their kids. We can do all this together and more. Please elect Kathleen DeSimone on February 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, and good luck. It's interesting. I have been involved in about 50 debates, including congressional and gubernatorial debates. First time ever. I've never seen the stop sign. You people respected the time limits so well. Let me take care of some business here. Thank you, of course, to the Sun Chronicle, Craig Borges, AACS, Jim Jones, his crew. The election is Tuesday, February 28th. The polls open at 7 a.m. They close at 8 p.m. In case you don't know where you are voting. Ward 1, Coelho Middle School on Brown Street. Ward 2, Murray Unitarian Universalist Church on North Main Street. Ward 3, Willett Elementary School on Watson Ave. 4 and 5, La Salette Shrine, the Welcome Center there on Park Street, and the Elks Lodge for Ward 6 on South Main Street. A local community changed its form of government a few years ago, and when asked why they went with a town manager rather than a mayor, they said, well, you may not get a good candidate to lead your community. I think we're very fortunate here in the city we live, the city of Attleboro, that we not only have one good candidate, we have 4 good candidates. To thank them, go to the polls on February 28th. One of them, actually all 4 of them, one of them certainly deserves your vote. Thank you very much.
They were so afraid of you, they didn't even make the stop sign up.
Yeah,